I used to think betrayal was something that only happened in movies. You know the kind. The dramatic, over-the-top kind, where the main character finds a letter, a voicemail, or a lipstick-stained shirt and suddenly their entire life crumbles. I didn't think it could happen to me, not to Nick Cannon. But then I opened a letter. It was a quiet evening. I was organizing the back office in our house, the small room I kept tucked away for private things, work papers, old notebooks, memories of my mother. I hadn't touched the bottom drawer in months. Buried between two ledgers was a pale envelope, tucked deep inside an old leather-bound planner. No return address, but the handwriting on the front stopped me cold. To Jazz, my love. I froze. Jazz wasn't me. Still, something in me already knew. Maybe it was intuition, maybe it was fear. But my fingers opened that envelope like they had a mind of their own. And there it was, the letter that would destroy everything I thought I knew. My dearest Jazz, I've waited too long to say this, and maybe now it's too late. I know what we've done is wrong, but the way I feel about you has never been fake. When you placed your hand on my belly and said I could finally give you a family, I believed you. I still do. I stopped reading. I couldn't, not yet. I sat down hard, letter trembling in my hands. My heart pounded like a drum in a storm. The room spun. I took a deep breath, tried again, read it slower this time. Each word hit like a hammer to the chest. The Jazz in the letter was my husband, Jasper. The man I had loved for 10 years. The man I thought I would spend forever with. And the woman who wrote the letter was my sister, Mara. Mara and I used to be close, real close. I was the big brother who protected her, covered for her, defended her every time she got in trouble. I chalked her attitude up to youth. She was reckless, selfish, impulsive, but I always thought she'd grow out of it. I never, not once, thought she'd do this to me. Never imagined she'd get pregnant by my husband. I started pacing the room, trying to breathe, trying to make sense of something that had no sense at all. My eyes caught the wedding photo on the shelf. Me and Jasper, smiling under soft white lights, our hands clasped, our eyes locked. I remembered that moment. I remembered how I felt when he vowed to always stand beside me. But it was all a lie. My phone buzzed. It was my mom. I didn't pick up. I couldn't. Not now, not when I could barely stay upright. I called Jasper instead. His voice was calm, too calm. "Hey, babe. I'm just stepping into a meeting. Everything okay?" "Babe." I gripped the phone tighter. "How long have you been sleeping with my sister?" There was silence, then a sigh. "You found the letter." That was all he said. No denial, no lies, just confirmation. "She's pregnant, Nick." Those words knocked the wind out of me. I sat down, feeling like the floor had disappeared beneath me. "Were you ever going to tell me?" "I was trying to find the right time," he said. I laughed, a dry, bitter sound. "Let me make this easy for you," I said. "Get your things out of my house, tonight." And I hung up. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't cry either. I just moved through the house like a ghost, collecting Jasper's things, his jackets, his shoes, the cologne I used to love on him. I dumped it all into black trash bags, not because it was garbage, but because I didn't want to see any of it ever again. The next morning, I dragged myself to the spa where I worked. I stared at my reflection in the mirror of the employee lounge. I barely recognized myself. Diane, one of the senior massage therapists, walked in. She took one look at me and asked gently, "You okay?" I gave the usual lie, a nod, a small smile. But she saw through it. She always did. "Word travels fast," she said, sitting beside me. "Some clients saw your husband and Mara together at the mall. She was in heels, pregnant, clinging to his arm like a trophy." I clenched my jaw. "I thought I was enough," I whispered. "I thought if I loved him hard enough, forgave enough, worked hard enough, he'd stay." Diane put a hand over mine. "They didn't take anything from you, Nick. People like that, if they could walk away so easily, they were never really yours." That's when I cried. Not the quiet, cinematic tears, the real kind. The shaking, aching, soul-cracking kind that makes you realize something is truly broken. That evening, my phone buzzed. "Mom, Mara's expecting. You need to stop being so selfish. This baby is family." I stared at the message, stunned. She wasn't asking if I was okay. She wasn't angry with Mara or Jasper. She was telling me to get over it, for the sake of family. But she didn't know the whole story. She didn't know I'd been trying to have a baby for 3 years, that I'd gone through test after test, medication after medication, hoping to give Jasper a child. But he'd always resisted, always delayed. Now I knew why. He was waiting for Mara. He'd already found the person he wanted to start a family with. And it wasn't me. And my mother? The one person I thought would stand up for me? She chose Mara. Like always, I took a leave from work. I couldn't be in that town anymore. Couldn't see the same streets, same restaurants, same coffee shops where Jasper and I had shared 10 years of memories. A friend of mine loaned me his beach condo, just a small place by the ocean. I spent my mornings walking along the water, letting the wind and salt sting my face, hoping the ocean could carry away some of my pain. One afternoon, I sat alone at a seaside cafe, nursing an iced coffee, watching the tide roll in. That's when I heard someone call my name. "Nick?" I turned. It was Aaron. We hadn't seen each other in years. We used to work on a wellness retreat project together. He had since moved to another city to launch his own fitness brand. "You look different," he said, taking the seat across from me without asking. "Life does that," I replied, sipping my drink. We talked for a while, about work, about old projects, about the weather. Eventually, he asked why I was here. "Escaping a ruined marriage," I said casually, "and a pregnant little sister." Aaron's smile faded. He didn't say anything for a moment. Then he said something unexpected. "If you're looking for something to take your mind off the mess, I've got a spot open on my new team. New location, new staff, fresh start. We could use someone like you." I blinked. "You serious?" "Completely." I looked out at the water again. This could be it. A way out. A fresh page. Away from Jasper. Away from Mara. Away from the ashes of the life I thought I'd built. "I'll think about it," I said. But inside, I already knew my answer. The first morning in my new role with Aaron's team felt strangely quiet. Not silent, just peaceful. There were no screaming babies in the hallway, no echoes of Jasper's voice on the phone, no scent of Mara's perfume drifting in from the guest room. It was just me, a French press, and the distant sound of waves brushing the shoreline. Aaron's gym was located just outside of the city, in a wellness complex he'd built from the ground up. It was modern, open, and full of people who didn't know anything about my past. To them, I was just Nick, the new spa and recovery consultant. It felt good to be anonymous again. "Safe." "I told you this place had good energy," Aaron said as we stood in the back room, going over intake forms and aromatherapy supplies. "It's the kind of space that helps people put the pieces back together." I didn't say anything. I was still learning how to be a person again. How to laugh without bitterness. How to work without memories clawing at the back of my mind. How to breathe without wondering who else was going to leave. I threw myself into the work. Mornings were for prepping the massage rooms, testing oils, training the new hires on techniques. Afternoons meant customer consults, listening to stories of back pain, burnout, stress, heartbreak. I could relate to every single one of them. But I kept my story to myself. Sometimes I saw flashes of Jasper's reflection in the faces of guests. The way a man folded his napkin, the curve of someone's handwriting on a waiver form. I'd freeze, harden my throat, until I reminded myself I was safe now. He wasn't here. And neither was Mara. Weeks passed. One Friday evening, Aaron invited me to a local community fundraiser. "It'll be good for you," he said, handing me a button-down shirt that still had tags on it. "Time to re-enter society." I hesitated. "What if someone recognizes me?" I asked. Aaron raised an eyebrow. "You didn't kill anyone, Nick. You got hurt. There's a difference." That night, I stood by the bar at the outdoor venue, sipping ginger ale and doing my best to smile at strangers. There were food trucks and fairy lights, a jazz trio playing soft piano. It was nice, almost too nice. I turned away from the crowd, and that's when I saw her. She was standing under a canopy of twinkling lights, handing out homemade soap samples at a vendor booth. Tall, silver-streaked hair tied up in a scarf, freckles across her cheeks, a crooked smile that didn't seem to try too hard. She glanced up and caught me staring. "Want one?" she said, holding up a small bar wrapped in twine. I walked over. "What's the scent?" "Lavender, eucalyptus, and something I can't name," she said. "My niece called it emotional reset." I laughed. "The first real one in months." "Sounds about right." She handed it to me. "On the house. You look like you've been through a storm." "I have," I admitted. "I'm Aaron," she said, holding out her hand. "Nick?" Her grip was firm, warm. We talked about soap, about jazz, about her garden, which she said had a mind of its own. She didn't ask about my past, and I didn't offer. Before I left, she handed me a second bar. "For the next time you remember how to breathe," she said with a wink. The next morning, I found her card tucked under the soap. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't call her. Not yet. I wasn't ready for whatever that might be. But I didn't throw it away either. I put it in the drawer next to my bed. And I kept the soap. About a month later, I got a message from Diane back home. "Diane, I thought you should know your sister had the baby." I didn't answer. But I couldn't stop thinking about it either. A baby. A whole new life born out of betrayal. What was I supposed to feel? Joy, bitterness, grief? All I felt was exhaustion. Then a second message came through. Diane, and your mother's been asking about you. That one made me laugh. Not a funny laugh. The kind you let out when the past tries to claw its way back. My mother. The same woman who told me I was selfish for not celebrating Mara's pregnancy. The same woman who had seen my world burn and handed me the matchbook. I blocked her number. Some things don't deserve a second chance. Aaron noticed I was quiet at work. You okay? He asked one afternoon as we stocked the oil shelves. I think my sister had the baby, I said. Aaron raised an eyebrow. And that's hitting you how? Like a ghost, I said. One I don't want to believe exists. He nodded. You don't owe anyone forgiveness. I looked at him. Not even myself? Aaron was quiet for a moment. Then he said, especially not yourself. Not yet. That comes later. 2 weeks passed. I kept the phone on silent. I avoided all news from back home. I didn't even open social media. But one morning, a letter showed up at the front desk. It was handwritten, addressed to me. No return address. I opened it slowly. Nick, I know you hate me. I deserve it. But I need you to know that I never planned to hurt you. Jasper and I, it wasn't some big conspiracy. It started with comfort, and it turned into something awful. I had the baby. It's a boy. His name is Ezra. He looks like you. I think that's the part that hurts the most. Mara. I didn't finish reading. I couldn't. I shoved the letter into the drawer with Aaron's card and closed it. Some pain doesn't have words. One night, I went back to the beach. The moon was full, casting silver across the water. I walked until my feet sank into wet sand. The air was cold and clean, salt cutting through the memory fog in my chest. And for the first time since everything fell apart, I said it out loud. I deserve better. It echoed back at me, carried by the wind, and I believed it. The next morning, I pulled out Aaron's card. I stared at it for 5 minutes. Then I called. Her voice was just as warm as I remembered. You remembered how to breathe? She asked. Barely, I said, but I'm trying. We met for coffee. Then lunch. Then walks through the local botanical garden where she talked to every single plant like it had feelings. She didn't ask me to explain myself. She just let me exist. And little by little, I started to feel human again. By spring, I had built a routine. Early mornings at the gym, midday client sessions, evening walks with Aaron through the neighborhood farmer's market or along the beach trail. We never talked about the future. We just existed, together, quietly healing. But grief is like a shadow, it waits. And mine came back with a knock on my door. Aaron answered before I could. Nick, he said, standing in the doorway with a folded piece of paper in his hand. You've got visitors. My stomach dropped. Standing outside next to a dusty silver SUV was Mara. And beside her in the back seat was our mother. I couldn't breathe. Tell them I'm not home, I muttered. But Aaron handed me the letter. She said it's from Jasper. I took it. The envelope was thin, familiar handwriting. I stared at it for a long time before I opened it. Nick, I know I don't deserve your time, but I need to say something. I was weak. I let grief become confusion, and confusion become betrayal. I loved you. I never stopped. But I didn't know how to be the man you needed me to be. I thought fatherhood would fix something in me. Instead, it exposed everything I was too afraid to face. Mara told me about the letter she sent you. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for peace. Not for me. For you. You didn't break me, Nick. I broke myself. I hope someday you find someone who chooses you first. Always. Jazz. I sat down. Not on a couch or a chair. I sat right there on the porch steps with the letter in my lap and the wind whipping at my sleeves. Aaron didn't say anything. He just sat next to me. And for a long while we stayed like that, breathing in what was left of my past. I didn't answer Mara's knock, but I called her the next morning. She picked up after one ring. Nick? I read the letter, I said, from Jazz. Silence. I don't forgive you, I continued, but I'm not going to hate you for the rest of my life either. It's too heavy. I'm tired. She let out a shaky breath. I'm so sorry. I know. I miss you. I closed my eyes. I miss who we were. You can still meet Ezra. I hesitated. He's beautiful, she whispered. Looks so much like you. Same smile. I didn't say anything. I know I ruined everything, but he didn't. I nodded, though she couldn't see it. I'll think about it, I said. And then I hung up. A week later, I stood in front of a small white house with potted succulents in the window and a baby stroller parked on the porch. I knocked once. Mara opened the door, looking tired and older. She didn't speak, just stepped aside. Inside, the house smelled like milk and powder and something sweet. cinnamon maybe. In the living room, a baby cooed softly in a bassinet. Mara walked over and picked him up. She turned to me slowly. "This is Ezra." I took a step forward, and when I looked into his eyes, I didn't see Jasper. I saw hope. I saw blood and bone and memory. I reached out, my hands trembled. "Can I asked. Mara handed him to me without a word. Ezra's skin was soft, his breath steady. He wrapped his fingers around mine. I didn't cry. I just stood there, holding the child born of betrayal, and felt something inside me begin to soften. Mara stepped closer. "I don't expect anything," she said. "But if you ever want to be in his life, there's space." I nodded, and then I left. That night, Erin found me sitting on the beach. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded, just thinking. About the baby? About everything. She sat beside me, tucking her knees into her chest. "You don't have to tell me," she said, "but if you want to, I'm here." I looked at her, and then I told her everything, from the moment I met Jasper to the day I found the letter. The lies, the betrayal, the silence, my mother's dismissal, the baby, the shame, the guilt, the rage. She didn't flinch, didn't interrupt. She just listened, and when I was done, she took my hand. "You survived," she said. "Barely." "No, you did more than survive," she corrected. "You chose to live." And I realized she was right. I didn't bury myself in bitterness. I built something new. Maybe it was shaky, maybe it still trembled, but it was mine. Weeks turned into months. Erin's soap shop opened in a small storefront near the gym. I helped paint the shelves and test the branding. We laughed more often. I stopped checking the calendar for important dates that didn't matter anymore. Then one night she asked a question that froze me. "Do you believe in second chances?" I stared at her. "With you?" I asked. "With life," she said. I nodded slowly. "I think I do now." She smiled. "I have something for you." She handed me a box. Inside was a new bar of soap. It smelled like mint and orange and something else I couldn't name. The label read, "Starting Over." 1 year later, I stood at the edge of a small community garden Erin and I had started behind her soap shop. It had been her idea. "You need to put something in the ground," she told me. "Let something grow that can't be taken from you." At first, I planted herbs. Easy stuff. Basil, mint, rosemary. I didn't expect much, but they thrived. Then came the sunflowers, big and bold and messy, shooting toward the sky like they had something to prove. Like me. I looked down at the little plaque near the gate. "Here blooms what was once broken." It had been Erin's suggestion. And somehow it said everything. I got a letter from my mother in May. Not a text, not a voicemail. A handwritten letter folded in 4. "Nick, I watched you hurt and said nothing. I let my disappointment in your life cloud my love for you. I believed family should hold together, no matter what. But I forgot that love without truth is just control. I failed you. Mara told me about the baby, about the letter, about how you walked away when you could have destroyed her. You have more strength than I ever gave you credit for. I don't expect forgiveness, but I would like a second chance. Your mother, Ellie." I read it 3 times. Then I left it on my nightstand. That night, I didn't dream about Jasper. I didn't wake up in a panic. I didn't feel like I had something to fix. Instead, I made breakfast, took Erin coffee, watered the garden, let myself just exist. That was new. That was good. Sundays became my favorite. That's when Mara would bring Ezra to visit the garden. Just for an hour or so. No drama, no explanations. Just her, me, and a toddler who liked to throw dirt at bees and chase butterflies. Ezra didn't call me anything. Not yet. But one day, he pointed at a wilted marigold and said, "Fix." I laughed. "I'll try, little man." Mara stood quietly nearby, watching. "You're good with him," she said. "I'm just trying to be decent." She nodded. "You're more than that." We didn't talk about Jasper anymore. He had moved out of state, tried to make amends, but he was no longer a part of my story. Not the new one, not the real one. Erin and I never had a moment where we said, "This is it." We didn't need to. She left a toothbrush in my apartment one day and never took it back. She brought a blanket from her place and curled up on my couch and never asked for it again. One night, I found her fast asleep with Ezra on her chest, while Mara and I cleaned up juice spills and crushed crackers. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. One Saturday, I hosted a dinner in the garden. Erin cooked. I grilled. Mara brought wine and Ezra's diaper bag. Diane came too, still fierce as ever, calling me famous for my new spa workshops. And to everyone's surprise, my mother came. She sat beside Erin. She helped Mara fold napkins. She didn't try to talk over anyone. And before dessert, she stood up with a shaky glass of lemonade in her hand and said, "I've never been prouder of my son." I didn't cry, but something broke loose inside me. And it felt like sunlight. Later that night, after everyone left, Erin and I stood in the garden, barefoot and tired. "Do you think broken people can really be whole again?" I asked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she took my hand, led me to the sunflower bed, and pointed. One stalk had snapped in a storm the week before. I'd thought it was dead, but there it was, pushing up again, curling sideways, still blooming. "It's still crooked," I said. "But blooming anyway," she replied. I looked at her, and I knew. I didn't need to go back to who I was before. I didn't need to erase the pain. I just needed to keep growing, even if it wasn't perfect, even if it was messy, even if it was new. Epilogue. I got a tattoo on my wrist, just a single word. Again. Because that's what healing is. Not once. Not all at once, but over and over. Again. And again. And again.